You cannot change your life with the same level of mind that currently created the life and the result that you have. So you cannot take the same old thought, the same old mindset, the same old attitude with you into the new reality, into what you want to create, and expect anything to change, to become better, or to quantum leap into that new reality that you're trying to create. And this is one of the biggest pitfalls, but it's also one of the most important lessons in becoming a conscious creator of your reality, meaning to be able to change anything in your life, is to really start to become aware of what are those limiting thoughts and stories and beliefs that I've been taking with me for too long, that are no longer needed, that are no longer serving a useful purpose, and that are not creating the life that I want. And so, for example, you cannot bring that victim mentality, those victim consciousness thoughts of helplessness and poor me and pity me and all of these type of thoughts, and try to create an empowering, strong, confident leader life that is inspiring others. You cannot feel sorry for yourself and at the same time create a life of extraordinary abundance and charisma and magnetism, right? You cannot bring all the thought of scarcity and lack, and there's not enough money, and there's not enough for me, and it's hard to make it, and all of this type of lack and scarcity thoughts, and try to create a world of abundance and prosperity and lavish abundance in your reality. You cannot take all the thought of bitterness and anger and jealousy and envy and create phenomenal rich relationships and bonds with others. So at some point you gotta become really aware of what is happening in my mind, in my self-talk, in my inner dialogue. What are the conversations, what are the thoughts that I'm not paying attention to, that I'm not aware of, that happens automatically, that just keep on looping, especially when something that you don't like or that is not expected or that is unwanted happen. Because this is usually when we go into that overreaction, meaning the program takes over and it starts that thinking, feeling loop. So as you can start to just observe, step out, detach for a moment and just observe what is really happening in my mind and identify those 5 main repetitive thoughts. If you can just start with those 5 main most repetitive limiting thoughts that just keep on spiraling every day, so many times a day. If you can take them, write them down, and just really pay attention so that those thoughts no longer cross your consciousness or your mind without you being able to notice it and interrupt it. Because those thoughts have creative power. You could say, oh, they're just thoughts, doesn't really matter, I'm just saying that in the heat of the moment, blah, blah, blah. But really, those thoughts, where there's just so much energy behind, is really a strong belief system, or it's pointing to a deeper cause, a deeper root that is really creating a lot of things. So letting go of those thoughts, being able to requalify the thoughts and go to a higher level of mind, meaning higher quality of thought, a better perception, thinking differently in order to create different feeling, in order to create different decisions, in order to create a different outcome, is what's needed to initiate that change. But if you keep on holding on to those old thoughts while at the same time trying to change a situation or wondering why it's not changing, then this is where the delusions have to awaken your mind to be like, yo, I'm doing it again. Yo, this is happening. I'm thinking this way again. I'm bitter again. I'm anxious again. I'm angry again. I'm in the victim mentality again. And this is why these things keep happening in my life over and over and over again. So it's not about not reacting either, right? But it's how long are you going to overreact in that way? How long are you going to let that thought spiral out of control until you catch yourself, until you realize that, okay, it's happening, let me stop it and replace it? Because you cannot simply interrupt it. The universe doesn't lack a vacuum. When there's an emptiness, there's a vacuum, it will fill the space. And if you don't introduce something else, like a new thought, if you don't requalify that thought with a new thought, it's just going to fill it with what it knows, right? The mind will just fill that space with the same old thought or something very, very similar. So the process that I'm asking you to really become aware of is not only just self-awareness, but it's also to interrupt and replace that thought. So example, I used to have that thought every time about how everything is so expensive and I don't have enough money and it's hard to make money. So when I was trying to really break free through the scarcity, through the lack belief that were deeply ingrained in my mind, right? Because there was also a lot of attachment to self-worth, right? The more money I make, the more I feel good about myself. So there was a lot of thoughts about money that were attached to my self-esteem. So when I became aware of all those limiting thoughts that I had, I started to realize and I started to see the price and the cost of those thoughts. But it wasn't enough to just become aware of it, although that's the first step, because what you cannot see, you cannot change. So just becoming aware of it opens the door to change it. But this is where I needed to start asking the questions, okay, what do I want instead? I knew I wanted to be more abundant. I knew I wanted to make money. I knew how much I wanted to make. I knew how well I wanted my business to do. But I needed to know what would be the thoughts that I need to have in order to make that happen. What is the mindset that I need to have? Who do I need to be? How does that person needs to think and feel and experience? What kind of attitude does that version of myself making that amount of money, having that successful business the way I want it and more? What is his mindset versus the mindset that I have now regarding money and how it's attached and entangled to my self-esteem? When you start to do a little bit of that introspection and you just start to question those thoughts and you start to realize the cost that it's costing you to have them, and then you go and you replace them, this is really when things start to shift, because as you start to drop those old thoughts and energize and give attention and energy to those new thoughts, to those new concepts, to those new ideas, you give it life, because energy gives life to everything. The more you give your attention, the more you have repetition over those thoughts, the more they will become belief, the more they will become deeply anchored in your mind, and the more you will start to actualize them, live by them, become them. So become very aware in your life right now. If you're not getting certain things in your life, if you're stagnating, if things are not happening, you gotta start looking at what are the thoughts that are anchoring me back in this current reality. Because I guarantee you, if you pay attention and if you feel like seemingly I've tried everything and I'm still not shifting, then there are thoughts and feeling attached to the thoughts that are anchoring you exactly where you are. And those are the thoughts, the limitations that you must overcome. Those are the limitations that you must requalify, so you can start living and creating from a new state of consciousness, from a new mindset. And that's really something that you have to do, because nobody else can come and do that work for you. So if you're not paying attention to your thoughts, if you're not monitoring the thoughts and the emotions and that state of being that it's creating, and if you're not able to see how that is the cause of certain situations and patterns in your life, and if you keep living in that state, you will keep on perpetuating certain things in your life. Just remember this. You cannot bring that old thought, that old feeling, that old state into your new life, into the new reality, because it is only going to create the same, it is only going to cause the same effect, meaning the same result. I hope this makes sense, because this is such an important message, guys. I will see you in my next video. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit the subscribe button, guys. I'll see you next time. Be well.